Good morning, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Rodola here, and welcome to Tracking and Controlling Your Credit. This was originally designed early on during the COVID pandemic, but it is an ongoing need that we find a lot of clients and customers enjoy understanding how to technically operate their credit report. So that's what this class and seminar is all about. We are with the Shasta-Cascade Small Business Development Center. We're a nonprofit organization and provide confidential, no-cost advisory and training. So this is one of the things we do. We do the trainings. We've been doing a lot of them, especially during the pandemic, a lot of Zoom. We just started trying to do in-person and still trying to work out the kinks in that area. And of course, then we offer the no-cost advisory. We can do one-on-one, which is hopefully what we'll end up with. We are funded through several programs, but SBA, Small Business Administration, and California Governor's Office through GoBiz does the most of our funding. So that's nice because then we can offer this to you at no out-of-pocket cost to you. Not only the trainings, but the one-on-one consulting. Well, this is from our attorneys. Obviously, this is to tell everybody that we are not financial advisors. We are not legal professionals. We are not CPAs, basically. So, it says here that this is for informational purpose only, does not constitute professional or legal advice. No registrant should act or fail to act on the basis of material contained in this webinar without obtaining proper financial, legal, and professional advice specific to their situation. Northern California Small Business Development Center and its host, the HSU Sponsored Programs Foundation, specifically disclaims any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence, directly or indirectly, of the use of application of any of the information presented in this webinar. That definitely sounds like an attorney to me. We've got a lot of assistance up here, not only locally, but we can draw from a large group of experts throughout Northern California. A lot of our experts, besides the ones you see on your screen, are accessible by phone and Zoom, a lot of them in Sacramento and the Bay Area. But this is our group of local advisors. You see I'm the one with the glasses on the bottom row, third from the left. We don't have our cameras going on me today, so that's me. And we have experts in QuickBooks, in marketing. I'm basically the credit and the money guy, okay? We've got HR, we've got restaurants, we've got Facebook and social media advising. You name it, we have pretty much someone who can talk to you in these various areas. And again, no out-of-pocket cost to you. And there's me. So as you can see, I have been around the block a couple of times. Basically 48 years in the credit industry. I was a banker back in my early life. I started in 1972 with a major bank. Before computers were in the building. How about that? We did everything by paper back in 72. Times have really changed. Spent 25 years there doing commercial loans, a lot of credit information that I worked with there. 11 years experience, I've had a small business myself, which is kind of cool. And in between there, for 13 years, I'm gonna have to add that, I actually ran an office, nonprofit office of CCCS, Consumer Credit Counseling Service. And that company assisted people in affecting their credit and paying off debt. So I like to say that I spent 25 years getting people into debt and the next 13 helping them get out, my penance years. So I'm gonna have to add that. And of course, I've been small business advising the last 9 for a couple of nonprofits here in Shasta County. So what are we going to do today? We're going to walk you through the steps of understanding and obtaining your score, and what the credit score means, help you pull a report, which we all can legally do once per calendar year for free. And all of this will be at no cost to you to get this information, how to connect with us, and how we can assist in starting to repair your credit if you need it. This was actually designed, this particular slide, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but I'll tell you what, it can happen anytime. Whether you lose a job, you get a divorce, all the major things that could happen to you financially in life, these come into play, not only during COVID. Basically, you make a list of your loans and credit cards if you're in a difficult situation, whatever that situation might be, and make a list of those loans and credit card companies you owe. I like to suggest you go from the largest payment per month to the smallest payment per month. Research your statement and online and find your contact phone numbers for each of those companies that you wish to ask for help from. And not only during the disaster period, which unfortunately seems to be occurring up in the north state of California every year for some reason, whether it's fire, drought, COVID. Since 2018, we've had one disaster after another. All of the credit card companies and most, if not all, of the loan companies have hardship departments within their company. They don't advertise it. Makes sense that they don't. But they're there. And these hardship departments can listen to what your situation is, whether it's normally what the request would be is to skip a payment, right? Because if you don't have to make a payment this month, it can have a positive effect on your leftover cash flow. Pay your rent, food, lights, air conditioning in 105-degree temperature. Those are the things you got to pay for, right? Be nice if you were running short of money, that you didn't have to pay your loan payments for a while. These are costs called deferrals. These are payment deferrals. Yet the company's not losing any money. They're going to still charge you interest on the amount of money you've borrowed. You just legally can skip a payment, basically. 1, 2, or 3. I've had companies actually and clients tell me they've had up to 6 months skip pay. At the beginning of the pandemic, March, April, May of last year, they were offering up to 6 months with no negative effect to the credit. And that's the key. If you ask for relief and they offer it to you, this has no negative effect on your credit rating or standing, okay? When I say figure out what accounts are best, I think it's always best to get where look at your largest payments first. It'll have the biggest benefit, right? If you've got some $25, $30 minimum monthly payment accounts, those don't have as big a positive effect cash flow wise as if you had one for $500, $600. See? So it's always best to attack the ones you need first, call them and say what they offer, okay? And maybe make the payments on the smaller ones and just keep it going like nothing ever happened. So you can pick and choose who you contact. Again, they'll charge you interest, so this is a short-term fix, definitely not a long-term answer. If you have automatic pays on those accounts, make sure that you remove the auto pays during this time period. Check with the lender to find out if that's okay with them, obviously, on the automatic pays from your checking account. And don't forget to change your budget when you start back up and making regular payments. You start making income again. You want to turn it back into regular payments. Don't forget to adjust your budget. Okay, so on an ongoing basis, understanding your score. Credit scores are an interesting animal. They can change technically as often as daily. Normally doesn't happen, but it could. Anytime you get a card, a new card, every time you make a payment to an account and they report that information to the credit bureaus, your score can change, okay? How do you check it? Well, Credit card companies, many of them offer free services where they'll allow you to check a score. Maybe only one. There are technically three reporting agencies nationwide: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Equifax, depends how you want to pronounce it. Three companies. So, like, I just happen to know Capital One offers a free Experian credit report, a credit score for free if you have a Capital One account. So again, credit card companies offer this free tracking. Credit protection companies, Legal Shield, for instance, there's one. There are several of them out there that offer tracking of scores as well. Or the perfectly free one that's available to everyone, Credit Karma. So creditkarma.com offers free score. I have that. I've signed up for a quarterly review. So I get an email reminder every quarter, and they say, time to check your score. If there is a movement on my score that they deem dramatic, they'll send an email in between quarters. Okay, so I could get like congratulations, you paid off some debt, your score went up. If you want to check it, here you go. So they do that. And again, this is no charge. Credit Karma is, it gives you a general overall idea of what your score is doing. It is not a guaranteed FICO score, FICO, which is the major company that most creditors use for score checks, but it sure gives you something close. It kind of reminds me of Zillow. If you ever use Zillow to check your home's value online, that's not an appraisal, okay? It gives you a ballpark idea of what your home is worth. Credit Karma does the same thing. Gives you an overall average credit score and gives you an idea, okay? What you're doing is tracking trends. Tracking trends. How is the score developed? Well, here it is. Here's kind of the breakdown of what the score is made up of. It's basically your credit history broken down into points. It's a point score system. So 35% of your score points is made up of your payment history, making your payments on time. 30% is how much you owe on those debts. 10%, if you have a new piece of credit, that can have a lowering effect on your score. Depends on what kind of credit account it is. 15%, how long you've had the credit history. The longer, obviously, the better. And types of credit in use, 10%. Okay, so if you're using, unfortunately, check cashing facilities to try to make ends meet, that can have a negative effect too, because if they report to the credit bureau, they'll automatically know that you're having issues month to month. So you get the idea. So there's your 100% score, and there's the FICO, basically, which is that major company that is the scoring company that the banks and financial institutions use. So what's a good score? So here we go. I like to, I turned it into kind of a golf analogy here. So those of you who are golfers or know a golfer may understand the analogy. So basically, credit scores start, depending on the company, at 300. Maximum is 850, and these again are points, okay? In this case, you want a higher point score. The higher the score, the better, unlike golf. How about that? So basically 300 to 629 is in the subpar range, okay? Varying degrees. I've never seen a 300, so it's hard to get, which is great. But I've seen people in the 500 and the low sixes. Normally indicates that there's some work that needs to be done, either paying off some collections, old bills, Maybe you had a long period of not being able to make payments called late pays. That can have this lowering effect. The par range, 630 to 689. You probably could get some credit. It won't be as easy. There'll be some explaining to do, and you're going to pay a little more for whatever you're borrowing, and you're going to maybe pay a little higher interest rate. So, but varying degrees, you might be able to get some borrowing capabilities. 690 to 719 is above par. Normally, when you're in this range, it's a lot easier to get credit. Better rates again, better terms, because you've made your payments on time and hit all those scoring points that are available. And then, of course, there's the high end or the birdie, which is 720 to 850. I've never seen an 850. And I've seen literally thousands of credit reports in my life. 850 ain't easy to hit either on the other end. I've never hit it. I've only been above 800 once or twice, according to my tracking. It's not easy to hit. I mean, you have to have like a 40-year credit history, perfect payment, no nothing. It's really difficult to do. But you only need to get 700 and above, really, for the banks and financial institutions to start going, oh, okay, fine, you're in good shape. So the number to shoot for everybody's kind of goal is 700 plus. Okay, 700 plus on the score. Okay, so we covered free sources. Remember, don't pay for your tracking on this. There are places that'll want you to. You don't have to. Talked about the score factors, how it's how the score is arranged, and we talked about bad and good scores. Okay, and remember, these scores are technically developed by the credit report. You can't have one without the other. The credit report drives the score. Okay, and the scoring has been around, believe it or not. I had checked on this. I thought it had happened in the late 70s, but technically credit scoring had been around since about the early 60s. It's just that most banks and financial institutions didn't care in those days because it was hard enough just to get a credit report. We had to go get it, or we had to have somebody send it to us. There was no, laptops that we all have sitting on our desks. So we went for the report itself. We figured, well, let's cut out, and there was only one credit reporting agency nationwide in the early 70s. It was TRW. So, and by the way, just a little history lesson, TRW is now Experian. But suffice it to say, if you came into our office in 75 and wanted to borrow money, we would say, well, we'll pull your TRW. We actually used the company name because there was no other place to get a report. Now you have to say credit report. And normally a lot of creditors, depending on what loan you're getting, business loan, house loan, that type of loan, they're going to pull all three, give you an average. Do we have any questions, David? No. If you do have questions, please put it in the, what are we using, the chat? Please put it in the chat on the Zoom. We can try to answer those for you live online, okay? Okay, so now you know how the score is developed now. How do you get the report? And then again, since I'm an old guy, been around a while, I like the report because the report tells you all the goodies. What you have, who you have it with, how much you owe, when did you start the thing, have you ever missed a payment? All these things are listed on the report. And guess what? As we talked about earlier, you can get your reports for free as well, okay? Annualcreditreport.com was started, trying to figure it out. It's got to be at least 15 years ago. So about 15 years ago, Annual Credit Report was developed by request from the federal government back in the day because there were so many errors on credit reports. They said, you know what, credit companies, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, you got to let people look at that report once per calendar year for free so they can check for errors. That was the original reason for developing annualcreditreport.com. And as you can see, the three companies jumped on board, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and offer this website. It's been around a long time. It is very safe. Never heard of any problems coming out of the information that you put into this particular site, because you will need to put your social security number in here to pull these reports. And this is actually what the page looks like when you go to annualcreditreport.com. So let's see. Oh yeah, our little button, our little arrow. That's cool. So that's the button you push. Request your free credit report. It's the bottom left-hand corner. It's in red. And you will be able to then go to the next page, which should look something like this. Okay. So it says, fill out the form to request 1, 2, or 3 reports. What we do in our household is we pull our reports in rotation. We'll pull the Experian maybe in January, and then my wife will pull hers in February, and then in June, June-ish, July-ish, we'll pick the Equifax, and then in the fall, October, November, we'll pull TransUnion. That way we are seeing the credit reports come in at varying times. Each report will not have the same thing on it 9 times out of 10. You will very rarely have the same score and the same report for each of the 3. Experian was developed to take over TRW. TRW was developed because of credit cards. Really, that was the main reason, okay? TransUnion was set up for real estate and real estate loan transaction. Equifax was set up for car loans and car loan transactions. So sometimes you'll have your car loans on the Equifax, maybe a car loan won't report to Experian. You get the idea. So that's why you have 3 different scores, 3 different reports, and all things will probably not be listed on all 3 reports. It's just the way it is, okay? So you hit the little button, request your credit reports, and then it'll ask you for the goodies, okay? You need your name, and I would use your whole name, whatever your real whole name is. I go by Joe all the time. Well, technically my name is Joseph. So when I go on here, I put Joseph Rodola, okay? Funny little side note, for the first time in my life, a couple of years back, I found another Joseph Rodola on Facebook. How about that? I didn't think there was anybody else with that name in the United States. I'm Italian. We have them in Italy. Joe Rodola, he's in Pennsylvania. We communicate on Facebook. Isn't that funny? So Joseph Rodola, date of birth, and you'll have to put your social security number in there, okay? So we'll have to go in. Current address, previous address, the last 4 if you haven't been there for 2 years, okay? Select the report you want, okay? We always, if you're going to come in and ask for us to offer you some suggestions, which I do as part of our program here for small businesses. Individuals want their credit report reviewed. I'll have you pull the Experian report, okay, and bring it in or send it to me on email, and then go from there. They will ask you also for some verifying questions. They may say, like, multiple choice, have you ever had a Wells Fargo home loan? Or, and then they'll list different answers, to verify again that it's you that's on the internet. Okay, so then it will come up with report information generated a certain date, and it'll give you a list of each item. So if you had a Macy's account, it'll have Macy's, the day you open the Macy's, how much is the limit, how much you currently owe, what the minimum monthly payment is, when the last payment was made. So it's got a lot of information about each account you have currently open. And then, of course, you have 30, 60, 90, 120-day lates. That takes up a lot of room on some of these reports. But the hope is, and we always used to look for it even back in the day, we'd look over at the 30, 60, 120-day late category and hope for zeros. So the idea is if you don't have any late pays, obviously your score is going to be higher and you paid your payments on time. The longer you've made those payments on time, higher the score, but it'll also show as a bunch of zeros on these reports. Okay, print your report is an option, or save it as a PDF onto your desktop. That's probably the best if you want to take time to review. If you don't want to make, kill a bunch of trees, then save it as a PDF. You can also send it to us for our review, my review, as a PDF. Easy to do. But you have choices. You have choices. And again, this is kind of a blanked out page of what they'll look like. It'll say how many accounts you have, public records, and what is called hard inquiries. Inquiries are an interesting little devil. They can have a negative effect on your credit score as well. If you say yes a lot of times to credit card companies, for instance, especially at the holidays. We always talk around the holidays in my family and say, don't say yes because all the normal retail stores are saying, hey, if you use our card, we'll give you 20% off or whatever. A lot of sales are going on during the holidays. So it becomes a little bit more enticing to say yes and get their card. I'm not going to use it much. So you don't want more than 6 inquiries in a year. So again, people that transfer balances to 0% cards often to gain that 12 months no interest, sometimes that's not always the best idea. So, and we can talk about that when you come in individually. If you're we call it a credit card bouncer, bouncing back and forth between these 0% interest rates, could have a negative effect on your score. Okay, and public records are normally all the bad things. Things like unpaid parking tickets, unpaid taxes you never call the IRS for, back child support that it's now in the rears, collections. You didn't pay a doctor bill, they went to collections. All those will show, obviously, bankruptcy, those kinds of things will show up too in the public record section. And those normally have a larger effect on dropping your score. So in this particular case, whoever this client is had 0 public records and only 5 hard inquiries. That's a great start before I even look at the list. Okay. Then below, of course, you'll see the list of each item. So if you have Visa cards, depending on where you have those cards, MasterCards, gas cards, all those cards will be Chevron, BP, 76, whatever. Those will all be listed individually on these reports. And it'll all have the same thing. How much you owe, what the limit is, how much your monthly payment, all that stuff will be listed for each account. Okay. So getting the credit report, annualcreditreport.com, best place to do it. You can get one or all 3 once per calendar year. Obviously, if you pull them, say, in January, you won't be able to pull them to the following January, so you get the idea there. And technically, I suppose you could pull it in December and pull it the following January. You wouldn't want to do that either. So think about that. If you want to spread them out to pull them, great. And then save them to your laptop or your computer as a PDF. And if you want us to help review it, you're going into business, you need to borrow money, be happy to review it and come up with ideas to help you with raising that score. Because I'll tell you, credit score, especially now during this this COVID disaster that we have gone through and are still going through, the banks and financial institutions are, they're a little bit conservative. Okay, a little bit conservative. The last time they were this conservative was 2009, 2008. And you remember what happened then. A lot of us that have been around a while remember what happened then. That was when the real estate market crashed. It's about as tight now as it was then, okay? For most types of credit, but especially startup small business loan credit. Got to have a clean report. I'll tell you that right now. If you're in the 620s and you want startup money, very difficult, if not impossible to get. Okay? So we want to work on that. We want to get you to a position where you're what we like to call a lendable. You want to be lendable. And the higher the score, as we said, the lower the risk. And the banks or financial institutions will be more readily able to lend to you if your credit is clean. How are we doing? We're good? Okay. You guys are good. We'll talk about some fixes. You can actually do some of this stuff, of course, on your own. So we'll give you some thoughts. Again, what impacts the score? So length of time you've had credit, how are you using the cards? Give you an example of that. If you have 2 credit cards, you've never missed a payment, you've had them for 20 years. Okay? But the limits are $5,000 apiece, and you owe $4,999 on each. Your score will be heavily negatively affected. And they say, well, why? I've always made my payments on time. I've had the cards for 20 years. It's because you're maxed out is the term that the bankers we always use. You're maxed out. In other words, you have no emergency room if your tire blows on the car. You get the idea here? We have learned in the banking industry over this, well, how many years? I think Visa was started in 50. Bank of America started the Visa thing in 51 or 52, I think. Right before I was born. And so, since that time period, it's been hugely important that you keep your balances in check, right? So what happens here is you want to keep your balances on credit cards at 50% of the limit or less. Okay, that's the goal. That's the goal. So you can actually affect your credit score by moving money around. We'll talk about that on a later slide. So how are you using your credit cards? Obviously, that's important as well. Are you using, I have a relative that uses their credit card for everything. Everything. Groceries, gas, clothes, but they make, if not a complete payment every month to pay it off, it's close. So why are they doing that? Well, they love to travel and they have a mileage card. So what they do is they build up their mileage. Instead of using cash, they'll use the credit card, build up their miles, and then they can go on a free trip later in the year. See? So you can do that. That's perfectly legal. Okay. Just make sure that if anything, try not to ever just make the minimum payment on a credit card. Because the more you have to do that, the longer it'll take to pay these off. What credit you have available? Negative items, again, if you owe as much as the limit as if you owe the complete balance of the limit, it's going to have a negative effect. And of course, late payments, collections, foreclosures, bankruptcies, and repossessions have a large negative effect. Easy fix, the old doctor bill. I had a situation come up with me on this, so I like to bring it up as a sample. We moved from Ukiah to Rohnert Park, and I had an old dentist bill. I'll never forget it. We thought we had the mail moved, right, from the Ukiah address to the new Rohnert Park address, and we got the bills, and this was way back. This was in the 80s. So and we didn't have home computers in the early 80s, I'll tell you that. So anyway, so we didn't have, fancy Excel spreadsheets telling us all our bills and reminding us when they were due. So we're paying the bills, everything's fine. All of a sudden I get a pink notice in the mail from this dentist. It was like 30 bucks that I still owed on this dentist bill. And sure enough, it had just been long enough to get sent to collections. So embarrassed, of course, as I was, I contacted the dentist and said, "Oh man, I'm really sorry. We moved, to Roner Park. We're no longer in your area." I was talking to their credit people in the office. I said, "We've been with you for, whatever it was, 15, 20 years. You done all our work on our teeth, our kids' teeth. Here's the money. I sent it to you immediately. And could you do me a favor and remove that?" And it worked in that particular case. Doesn't always, but those things can happen. Don't be afraid to ask for removal. Pay it off immediately, okay? Make sure your addresses are changed when you move so that you don't end up with my dentist bill, okay? But it can happen. It can happen. Stuff happens. Late car payment. This is one of the things that can happen to anyone. And it's a good idea to check this out. Let's say you're going from a job that was paying you every 2 weeks, and now you're going to be paid once a month. Okay? So when you were being paid every 2 weeks, you probably had some of your bills coming out on the 15th or 10th or 11th, and you had some of the bills coming out on the 29th, 30th, 31st, or 1st. You split them up, right? Well, now you're getting paid once a month. That may not fit. Or worse, go the other direction. You had all your bills being payable on the 29th, 30th, and 1st. Now you're getting paid twice a month. Boy, it'd be nice to have them moved. Almost all creditors, I can't say all because it's not a guarantee. Almost all creditors will allow you to move the due date around, okay? Maybe once per year or once per whatever. They'll have a length of time that you can move that due date. And don't be afraid. Just call them. Say, hey, I had to change the payroll. I got, I used to get paid here. I don't have the money now. I'm gonna, I'll need it. Can you move it to the 29th? And like I say, about 9 times out of 10, no problem in moving as long as you're not doing it every week. They won't allow that. But very important to have your cash flow at the appropriate time periods. Again, unbalanced credit card debt. There's the whole thing again. You owe $9,500 outstanding on a 10,000 limit card. Okay, that's maxing out or close to it. That has, the longer that sits there, at that, it's called utilization. As long as it sits at that utilization of roughly 95% of the limit, the lower the score will get. It's going to accumulate, especially now during COVID, where this was probably, again, it had happened in 08 and 09 too. Guess what was the last thing to be paid each month when people were having problems making their house payment? Credit cards. Same thing happened in the last 12 to 15 months in America today. You were trying to make payments on your house. You were trying to make payments on your, car, perhaps, that you had to get to work on. You had some drop in income. Your wife or husband had to stay home and teach the kids because the schools were not in. And you get what's going on. So guess who didn't get paid? Okay, credit card company. So they're experiencing a large amount of people falling behind. So when you run out of limit, that's where it gets scary. Okay, so some people say, well, wait a minute, I only have the one card that's at limit. I got 2 cards at 0. Well, that's cool. Okay, but you might want to think about something. A lot of cards allow transfers of balances. I want to think about transferring some of that $9,500 onto a zero card. Hopefully do that when they have a special. My wife has a Sears Visa, and they offer once per year that you can move balances to the card for zero interest for a year. So as long as you can pay it off in 12 months, it's a heck of a deal, okay? So if there's an issue we've got where there's some money sitting somewhere, we always get that little informational thing from Sears, and we might use that to transfer it over to that Sears account for that 1 year period. Doesn't cost anything, no charge there, and zero interest. Pretty cool. Too many credit cards. There's a misnomer that you need a lot of these, okay? We had FICO actually come to one of our meetings once, back when I was at CCCS. They came to our annual conference. And it was nice to have them there. We could ask all these questions. We asked them the question. We said, well, how many pieces of credit do you need to have an 800 credit score? Okay. And they said, technically, you only need 4 pieces. Okay. So you could have a house, a car, a couple credit cards. Okay. Maybe a Visa and a MasterCard. Okay. As long as they're not at limit on the plastic, you've had them a while on the plastic, you don't need the other 10 cards, okay? Couple reasons. One, temptation. They're sitting there, you can always use them, can't you? Something happens, whip out another one, start using it. The other reason is fraud and people stealing your identity. No matter what, people are they're pretty bad, okay? They're tapping into our computers, they're tapping into our getting all our information and things on the computer. You don't want to give them a lot. You have a zero balance card, you may not think about it. All of a sudden somebody gets the number and a password and maybe a code. They'll max the card out in a couple of hours. You won't even know it, okay? So there's a couple good reasons not to have what I call dead wood. In my opinion, all the times I've been involved with credit, as many years as I have, individual store cards and individual gas company cards are the most limited use cards in your wallet or purse. In other words, if you've got a Kohl's card, I'll just bring up Kohl's, sorry about that. You have a Kohl's card, Kohl's cards can only be used at Kohl's. So limiting, right? It's limiting. Kohl's takes Visa, MasterCard. Chevron takes Visa, MasterCard. All these places take Visa and MasterCard. So if you have 10 cards, you got a Macy's, I always bring up old companies that no longer exist. Penny's, Mervyn's, all the Sears, all these companies, Kmart, all these companies don't exist. They used to have all those cards, right? So if you're going to close them, and you can close them, okay, you write a letter, cut the card up, tell them thank you for your, letting me have your account for a while. Send them a nice letter to their credit department and shut them down yourself. You can do that. That's legal. Doesn't have a negative effect on your credit because you shut it down, not them. But it's a way to get rid of the dead wood and keep at least 4 pieces active and running. Check obviously for errors. There are companies out there that actually, Legal Shield is one, where they'll track your credit for you. If somebody uses your social security number in vain, they'll let you know. They'll help you with corrections and blocking and all that good stuff. Most credit card companies and ATM card companies. I still have an account with my old company, Bank of America. The minute something pops in there, you can call them. If it's not you didn't do it. Somehow somebody got your card number. Who knows at what institution, what retail store, whatever, got your information. But they'll block it immediately. They'll give you the money back on that transaction, send you out a new card. So and you're not responsible for that. So check for errors, continually check. Another good reason to pull annualcreditreport.com so you can check for these errors, okay? And make sure that there are no cards on there you didn't apply for. One year, my wife pulled up, when we pulled the Experian report in January, late January, pulled up her credit report, had a Macy's account on her. And of course we had the old, you did it, huh? Macy's convinced you to get their account so you could get the 20% off. She goes, no, I didn't do it. It's not me. And so we go, oh, that's not good. $500 limit card, brand new card. But if it's not you, you don't want it to become bad. It wasn't bad yet. So we went online and started to do some reviewing. We actually started by contacting Macy's first. And Macy's looked up that account number from their records. And they said, do you live in Fresno? We said, no. Do you shop in Fresno? We said, no. Well, this card was issued at the Fresno Macy's store. And, it was John Jones or somebody. And of course, we didn't know who John Jones was. It ended up in this particular case that the Social Security number of this gentleman was 2 numbers swapped to what my wife's Social Security number was. Okay. So what happened was whoever typed in the switch of numbers to my wife's number. And so it went to her credit report, but he got the card. He didn't know. He wouldn't have known until he checked his report. How come my Macy's ain't showing up? So anyway, it was easily correctable, but errors can happen. No doubt about it. These are harder to fix, okay? If you miss child support payments, if you owe back taxes, the thing I can say about this page is this. Don't hide. It's the key. Don't hide. Contact the court. Contact the IRS. Takes a little bit of doing to get a hold of the IRS. Don't get me wrong, okay? I think they open at 7 a.m. or something Pacific time. So you sit on the phone at 6:55 and you put the number in there before you hit the redial. It's kind of a pain, but you can go online, contact the IRS. They'll set up a payment plan. They do it all the time. This is something they do. If you make a payment plan, it doesn't report negatively to the credit bureaus. Okay. Yeah, they're going to charge you interest. They're not doing it for nothing. Okay, fine. But you can make a payment plan, make the payments every month. You can go manual payments or electronic, automatic. Okay. We had a year where we couldn't make all our payments. I think we're down to the last $1,000. I think it was 2018 or 2017's tax year. And so we were paying, X amount of dollars because we didn't send them enough in our quarterly estimates to cover our bill. No problem. This makes the payment automatic, comes out of the bank account every month, and it pays it, and it's done. And no one, no one's hurt, especially you on the credit side. One of the things about the IRS, any federal debt, you can't bankrupt out of. So it's a key issue that when you have bankruptcy proceedings, to remember, can't hide from the feds, okay? So that's why I bring this up. But you can always make payment plans, okay? So there's our quick fix. Identify quick fixes, pay off old bills, rebalance the credit card usage, fix your errors, set up payment plans with the IRS. Pretty cool. We have any questions from anyone? Yep. Oh, perfect. We definitely love to hear from you. And we're going to send, David's going to put in the chat the survey link. It's in there now. And please fill out the survey. Tell us how we did. If there's other types of trainings you're interested in, gives you an opportunity to do that as well. I'm going to give you a page here in a few minutes. Oh, by the way, you're going to get a copy of this slide deck, so you don't have to memorize all this stuff. And a link to the recording, right? So we're going to have, we have one thing about this last 18 months has been the advancement of our technological approach to what we've been doing. David and I daily try to figure out ways to do this, to make sure that everybody can see this good stuff that we have going on. So we'll get to that in a sec. But as obviously we've obtained your, how do you get your score? How do you get your report? Connect with advisor. We're going to do that next. And of course, start repairing your credit will be the final stage if need be. So connect with Shasta-Cascade SBDC. That's the hope. If those of you that are listening are coming in from another geographic area, because we cover Trinity and Shasta County, our little office up here in the North State. If you're calling from Sacramento or LA, we had somebody call the other day from San Diego. There's SBDCs everywhere, okay? All counties in the United States are covered by an SBDC office, and we all offer very similar types of assistance. And what's cool about going to your local SBDC is they may have different things available in your geographic area that we don't. So it's always best. I mean, a lot of people say, well, I want to talk to Joe. Well, great, but I don't know San Diego, okay? I know there's a zoo down there, and you got aquarium thing. Right? That's what I know about San Diego. So so it's better to go to your local SBDC office because they have specialized items for you. Okay. How long does it take? It's instantaneous. In other words, if you're on the internet and you're going into annualcreditreport.com and you press send, as long as you're not on, do they even have phone links anymore? I don't know. If you're on any kind of high-speed internet, it's instant. You'll have the report in a matter of seconds. Pop right into your computer area there. You'll be able to look at it, and then you can download it. Okay, download it. Like I say, back in the 70s, we had to call across town to take a day or two to get it. Not anymore. So again, now you're eligible to sign up for one-on-one advising. And check center calendars, of course, for other types of workshops. We got a ton. We also are a part of NorCal SBDC, and NorCal's got a ton. So how do you get a hold of us? So what are our goodies? Here we go. This is the good page. We are physically located at our new office at 1305 Sacramento Street in Redding. We're right downtown, very close to anybody that's from Shasta-Cascade area. Well, no Damburger. We're right up this one block from lunch. Yeah. And we again cover Shasta and Trinity counties. There's our local number, 530-222-8323. The best way to sign up for services is to go on to shastasbdc.org, okay, or sbdcsc.org. It all works. There's a red button on that particular cover page as well. You press that, sign up for services. Then you'll probably end up talking to our lovely Emily, she really is the backbone of this place. She keeps David and I running the straight and narrow, and she makes sure all the appointments are set. She's phenomenal. And look at us, huh? Are we high tech or what? We got Facebook, we got Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I like the YouTube channel the best because I just happen to use it a lot. If I need to find out something and I need to know how to do it, I go to YouTube. So there's our YouTube connection. We have probably close to 100 by now taped webinars, okay? I'm on there too often. We've got several how to start a business classes, I think, taped on the YouTube channel. We also have something on there called NorCal Minutes, small snippets of 1 to 2 minute advice information that are quick hit items that may interest you as well. Then you sign up for one-on-one. We set an appointment. We are doing a limited number of in-persons at the office here in Reading. And we, of course, still do all the Zoom and phone call types of meetings as well. So, any final thoughts from anybody? We're good. Thank you all very much for attending. Again, welcome to Shasta-Cascade SBDC. And you all have a great day. Hope to see you soon.